Good evening, YouTube. This is Hell's Unicorn once again coming to you live from the forests of William Penn, and I actually have some good news for all of you tonight, which I will now read for you. ACLU cheers failure of Real ID sucker money proposal. And this was reported actually on the 26th of July, but I'm mass communicating it now just to make sure that everybody knows exactly what's happened here, because this is really good news. From Washington, D.C., the American Civil Liberties Union today applauded the failure of an amendment offered to the Department of Homeland Security appropriation bill that would have authorized $300 million of federal funding for states to implement the Real ID driver's license program, which has been estimated by DHS to cost $23.1 billion. The ACLU deemed the proposal sucker money because it aimed to entice the states to accept a paltry amount of funding for a flawed program that would ultimately cost millions in state taxes and licensing fees. The amendment was killed when a motion to table it passed 49 to 45. After both the chairman and the ranking member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Senators Robert Byrd and Thad Cochran, respectively, spoke passionately against the funding proposal. The death of this amendment means that the states will receive no additional federal funding to implement Real ID, dealing a crushing blow to the viability of the unworkable program. The Real ID is dead in the water, and it is clear that no amount of money can save it, said ACL Legislative Counsel Tim Sparapani. The only solution to Real ID is to scrap and replace it, and Congress has caught on. With 17 states opposed to this program and the U.S. Senate standing behind them, this is the beginning of the end of Real ID. $300 million does not even come close to covering the cost of the program, and it is not enough to lure Americans into giving up their privacy. Amen to that. Real ID poses serious privacy threats. The federally mandated IDs would hold machine-readable data of every American. That information would be stored in a national database available to government employees at all levels, putting every American at risk to identity theft and security breaches. Ultimately, Real ID could pave the way for a society that tracks Americans' movements and warehouses personal information in centralized databases that are rife with errors and highly enticing to identity thieves. Because Real ID promises to be such an integral part of our lives, from boarding a plane to opening a bank account to verifying your eligibility to work, a small glitch could have disastrous consequences. 17 state legislatures have passed laws rejecting the program, with 7 of those states passing binding legislation refusing to implement it. Never before in modern history has a federal mandate been so vehemently rejected by the states. The American people are not suckers, and they won't be duped by attempts to dress up a bad proposal with a little federal funding, said Director of the ACLU Technology and Liberty Department, Barry Steinhardt. Throwing money at Real ID will not fix anything because the program is fundamentally flawed and fundamentally unworkable. There are only 2 options: scrap Real ID altogether or replace it with something that works. Americans don't want a national ID card, and they shouldn't be forced to pay for one. And for more information about the Real ID Act, you can visit www.realnightmare.org. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge victory for liberty in America, and it was a bipartisan effort led by a Democrat from West Virginia and a Republican from Mississippi. And the reason why it occurred was because those of you out there with a brain in between your ears decided to get on the phone and raise hell. Good work, God bless you all, and God bless America. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, all cheer ahead for freedom and liberty in 2008. Vote Ron Paul.